She charged at Ada in anger. Somehow, Grace headbutted Ada in the jaw and knocked her unconscious. Then she turned to Amos and attacked him with a. There are mistakes that is supposed to mar your life forever. But in a situation whereby those mistakes that is supposed to mar your life became a testimony for you, became a miracle for you, it's a clear example of what God cannot do does not exist. God is wonderful. The story about to watch is the story of a young girl who made a mistake in her university days. But instead of those mistakes marring her life, it became a miracle for her. This testimony will bring tears to your eye as you watch it. Watch and be blessed. In the year 2018, Amos met Grace during the orientation program in a Christian private university. He was just 21 years old while she was 19. It was love at first sight for both of them. The chemistry between them clicks immediately. It was as if they have known each other for ages. Grace was lost in thought, daydreaming as the orientation program was ongoing. Amos is very handsome and dark, her spec. She already started seeing him as her husband. There was something about Grace, perhaps the smile or the fact that she was very reserved. There was this thing about her that Amos couldn't resist. He found himself being drawn to her the way a magnet, an iron close to it. He couldn't put a finger on it, but it made him warm within. They were not in the same department. He was admitted to study sociology and she to study economics. After that day, they kept seeing each other, but Amos couldn't gather the courage to approach her in spite of all the green lights from Grace. Later on, Grace's roommate happened to be Amos' classmate. It was as if heaven is working in her favor. One day, Grace and Ada, her roommate, were in the cafeteria eating when Amos walked in to have his lunch too. Ada introduced them. He sat with them while they ate. They hit off straight away. They were both born-again Christians and attend the same fellowship. It was the perfect eclipse. His son and her move holding hands. He wasn't one of those guys with flowery words. Amos was real and simple. Grace saw his simplicity as a blessing, but she grew to loathe it. Amos hardly compliments her. She was brought up to be sensitive to the emotions of others. Words matters and the truth less so. Nobody wants to hear the blunt truth all the time. The truth haunts ladies, especially like being complimented. But he will insist he wouldn't like to make anybody happy. If you are beautiful, he will say so. And if you are not beautiful, he wouldn't be kind. He will never lie, no matter how inconvenient or uncomfortable the truth makes everybody. It was odd. Amos was like a child in that regard. Come to think of it, who doesn't lie? Grace thought to herself. No society can survive if everybody told the truth all the time. But he insisted he don't mind people lying to him, but he will never tell a lie. One day, a roommate of Amos said some negative things about Grace. This is normal because everybody can't have a good opinion about a person. One fateful Saturday morning, Amos and his roommates were playing volleyball at the sport complex. Grace went there to greet him. His roommates came around to greet her as their wives, normal. Amos looked at the roommate shaking hands with her and said, "He said you have very small balls in the room yesterday." The roommate almost fainted. Grace, instead of getting very angry, was embarrassed beyond words. It was the most tactless and graceless thing she ever saw. She didn't want to know that. She didn't want to be put in such awkward situation. She didn't want to know the negative things people say about her. The roommate in question also saw it as a betrayal of certain guys' code. Both the roommate and she felt very embarrassed, but Amos didn't see anything to be embarrassed about what he said. After all, it's the truth. That was the moment Grace decided Amos wouldn't make a good husband. She thought to herself, a good man is a secret keeper, someone who will say you are great when you are really awful. Discretion is an integral part of maturity. His "I speak the truth" policy stinks of arrogancy. As far as she was concerned, he's immature. He was supposed to be in her corner, covering for her, but instead he made a fool of himself over her. Grace wasn't against the truth. She was a born-again Christian, just as he is. But foolishness can sometimes be disguised as truth. That was Amos' only flaw. He wasn't only very brilliant, but gifted also. At the end of their 200 level, she broke up with him. However, Amos was prepared for the breakup. Her attitude, since the embarrassment on the volleyball court, was a dead giveaway. She shut him out and began giving one excuse after another. Amos did not follow her to beg her to change her mind. This further confirmed to her that he was the wrong choice. 2 weeks later, the school was organizing a marathon race. Grace went to watch the race on the day it was staged. There she saw them together in a very romantic position. Her ex and Ada, her former roommate, they were in a shameless, satanic pose right on the sport pavilions. She knew they were close friends and classmates. Ordinarily, she wouldn't have read any meaning to it, but it was that same roommate she confided in about his flaws, though by then they were in separate hostels. She remembered looking for Ada to inform her about her decision to end things with Amos. The painful part is that Ada encouraged her to end it with him. Wait, oh, Grace said to herself. She had no right to be angry, but the anger couldn't be restrained. Grace was the one who showed Amos the door, but it was just 2 weeks they broke up, and it felt to her as if Ada had been using the information she was sharing with her about Amos to gain an emotional inroad into his life at her expense. At this point, her anger couldn't be restrained. Guess, why I guess like this? Grace thought to herself. Grace felt as if both she and Amos had been manipulated by Ada somehow. She remembered vividly Ada telling her to give Amos some room long before she broke up with him, and she had acted as a sort of interference for the both of them before she decided to end it all. It bothered her, it troubled her. Grace couldn't let it go anymore. She felt used. Her anger couldn't be restrained any further. Angrily, she woke up to bed. Amos was nice towards her. He even gave her a hug and a smile, but Ada was indifferent towards her. You know, guess things now. On a second thought, Grace turned to walk away, but paused again. She's already here, and she must find out the truth. She knew he wouldn't lie. She turned and asked him directly, "Are you guys in a relationship now?" Without thinking, Amos said yes. We became an item this afternoon. Grace felt this hurt in her heart the way Amos said it with meanness. Amos said it so casually as if he was talking to just anybody. Grace felt betrayed by her former roommate and her ex. It's possible he was cheating on her with Ada when they were together. Grace couldn't explain what happened afterward. All she saw was red. She charged at Ada in anger. Somehow, Grace had put Ada in the jaw and knocked her unconscious. Then she turned to Amos and attacked him with venom. Amos was surprised at her anger and strength. He couldn't believe a girl could possess this kind of strength. He was bigger and stronger than she is and was able to restrain her, but she beat him and tore his clothes. Grace just lost it. It was uncharacteristic and totally shocking even to her. Campus security had to handcuff her forcefully. 2 of the campus security got injured during the violence. She calmed down after an hour behind bars at the campus security post. She wrote her statement. The campus security folks also wrote theirs. Amos wrote his statement too. Ada was in the hospital. That was a big deal. Grace doesn't need a prophet to know she'll be facing a definite expulsion verdict. In fact, it takes serious divine intervention for her not to be expelled from the school. She knows that. She was on scholarship. That was how she was able to afford such an expensive school. This scandal would cost her the scholarship. She would lose everything. Students were made to sign affidavit regarding their conduct on campus. And this deal was done on campus. No escaping route for her. What will she tell her parents and everyone that believed on her as tears rolled down her cheeks inside the cell? She was released later that night. The entire hostel and her roommate were curious to know what happened. Her madness had overshadowed the marathon race. You can see how 5 minutes of madness could rule your life. Patience is a virtue. Now, what will become of Grace? Will she be expelled from school? Certainly, it's an expellable offense. Find out from the next episode what will happen to her. Your guests and others at night should be expelled from school. They find out. If you are not following this page, follow this page to watch the next episode. And please share this story to as many people as you can.